Good morning, everyone. We've got some important information to share with South East Queenslanders, and we've had two meetings this morning. We've just had a second emergency meeting, and it's really important that everyone listens to what we have to say today. We have a lot of unsettled weather conditions across the entire South East, and people know that because they've been woken up with those severe storms and to some extent large damage around that Landsborough region. But as a precaution, and our Acting State Disaster Coordinator will give further information in a moment, but as a precaution, because we are seeing some rising levels around Grantham, we do have people out there at the moment evacuating residents as a precaution. As I say again, it is as a precaution, but better to be safe than sorry. Now, this is very important information. We've just been updated from the Bureau, and Laura will update more, but there are severe conditions that are going to be experienced from the north of Brisbane, in that northern Moreton Bay region, Sunshine Coast, Gympie, Wide Bay, all the way up to Bundaberg. Now, this is of serious concern. So what we are asking people to do who live in this region, we are asking people to, in the first instance, children are safe at school, but you should collect your children when it is safe to do so. We are warning people that this is a serious situation. It is extremely unstable weather conditions, and as a precaution, we would like people to collect their children when they think it is safe to go out on the roads and do so. But they are safe at school until they can come and collect them. We've just had a meeting with the Education Minister. They're sending out this information to the schools as we speak. Secondly, we are seeing some rises because of some rain in the Bremer River. So we are talking to the Ipswich State Disaster Coordinator. We could see some major rises there. In Brisbane, we expect there could be some rises in the creeks, where there could be some flash flooding as well. And at the moment, the Brisbane River is 2.2 metres, so that's well below that major peak we saw the other day. But our immediate concern is that northern region. So if anyone is living in that northern region, please listen to all of the broadcasts. Something that everyone can do in the southeast is actually subscribe to the BOM app. It is giving out up-to-date information, and also too, your councils will be giving out emergency alerts. So today is the day to be listening. Now, having said all of that, the conditions are going to be unstable for the next 24 to 48 hours. So across the entire southeast, I'm asking people tomorrow to think about not being on the roads and staying at home. The schools will open for children of essential workers, but under all the information that's been given to me this morning, to myself, the Commissioner, the Acting State Disaster Coordinator and the Deputy Premier, this is the action that we wish to take. So everyone, please listen to the alerts. It's a serious situation, and these are unprecedented times. I've lived in Brisbane essentially all my life, and I haven't seen storms and floods like this all being thrown at us at once. So we'll get through it together, but it is, of course, a very concerning time. Can I also ask people, if you have been cleaning up and you have been in some of those areas where we've seen rising floodwaters, especially around the creeks, to please do not go back into those areas for the next 24 to 48 hours. Please stay out of those areas. We don't want to be sending people in to rescue you at midnight tonight when we expect some of those severe storms to be coming in. So that's an added message. And finally, to people who are undertaking clean-up activities once we get through this storm period, we're also, the health advice is to make sure you've had your tetanus injection as well. So that's another health message. Look, I'm going to hand over to the Bureau to go through in more detail. Please listen to the Bureau here. Laura's across all of these details. and then we'll move on to the Commissioner and the State Disaster Coordinator.
Thank you, Premier. Good morning, everyone. So the update from the bomb today is that this is a very dangerous and potentially life-threatening situation for southeast Queensland. And it's continuing today and potentially, as the Premier said, for the next 48 hours with active and potentially severe storms across very responsive rivers. So the situation we have seen over the past week has meant that any rainfall that falls in the southeast is going to renew these river rises, and creeks will respond very quickly. They do not have the capacity to take on any more water, so they will rise if any water falls in those areas. And that's why today it is such a serious and very dangerous situation. So what we have seen overnight already, some heavy rain. For example, in Brisbane City, we saw 48 millimetres in 30 minutes. So that's a severe storm with some very intense rainfall. And what we have seen can indicate what we can expect for the rest of the day. So while the area of severe storms today is pushing a little bit further north, so the areas that were just explained by the Premier, North Moreton Bay, Wide Bay, Sunshine, as well as the Fraser Coast areas are the focus for today. But the rainfall rates that we saw in the south can indicate what we can expect for the rest of the day and into tomorrow. So 48 millimetres within half an hour at Brisbane, 52 millimetres within half an hour at Maroochydore, incredibly intense rain. We also saw giant hail overnight. So unlike the event we have seen over the past week, this isn't a widespread area of rain, it's severe thunderstorms, and with severe thunderstorms comes severe hazards and phenomena. And that doesn't just include the heavy rain, it includes the potential for giant hail, as well as damaging winds. So overnight, just after midnight, we saw hail of 5 to 6 centimetres around Inglewood. So that's incredibly large hail and can do a lot of damage. And we've also got damaging winds. So 93 kilometres reported at Dalby Airport, and in Beerwah we've had reports of trees down across that area. So it's not just the rainfall today, even though the rainfall is still posing an incredible threat. So due to the rainfall, we've seen renewed rises. So we've got a riverine flooding still current and renewed rises in some areas. So I'm going to focus on a few key areas, noting that we've seen a lot of rain across a large area of the southeast, and even if I'm not going into details and specifics, doesn't mean that those areas aren't still at risk. But the two I really wanted to highlight today was around the Lockyer Creek, Bremer River, Worrell Creek and Laidley Creek. So we have seen renewed rises there already overnight due to the rainfall that we saw overnight. And what that means for Ipswich is that we're expecting moderate flooding by midday today and major flooding this evening. It's also important to note that on the radar currently we are seeing more showers and storms push into the Mary catchment. So there's potential for renewed rises there, and obviously they have already seen some incredible flooding over the past days. I'll note Brisbane as well. So we are seeing in the Brisbane area the creeks responding very quickly. So at this stage, we're still seeing flooding in the river, but for today the creeks are of real concern and of real focus because they are rising and responding so quickly. As I said, they cannot take any more rainfall. They are what we call saturated, meaning that they will rise when they see any rainfall. So what we're expecting for the rest of today, I think I've possibly covered it all. It's the hail and the wind with these storms, and especially the rainfall. So while we are seeing creeks and rivers rising, there's also a potential for flash flooding today. So that's flooding with little to no warning and is absolutely a risk today, especially around the areas where we are going to see severe storms move into. So just to reiterate, that's north of Moreton Bay, Wide Bay, Sunshine Coast and the Fraser Coast as well. And that's expected, the severe storms are expected to continue into this evening, and we're still expecting storm activity tomorrow and into the weekend. There's the potential for it to be less severe in the weekend, but any rainfall at this stage of a flooding event is going to cause impacts. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So you've heard it a number of times. Extraordinarily serious, dangerous and life-threatening. We already have had 9 deaths, and each of those has been related to the flooding of this event in the last week. The ground is extraordinarily saturated, so any rain anywhere, there is going to be flash flooding in areas that we're not used to in the past. The roads are extraordinarily congested at the moment, so I ask for everyone to think about whether they need to be on those roads, and if it is essential, to please be aware of the weather. And in fact, before you travel, go on the bomb site to have a look, what the weather's like and where it is likely to impact. So I ask again that you please be incredibly careful out there. For those areas that have already been heavily impacted and are evacuated, and it's been touched on a couple of times, around those creek areas that will be impacted again, please think about not going back there until this weather event is over in the next 24 to 48 hours. The cleaning efforts will be severely hampered, and the Commissioner of QFES will talk about their rapid assessments and what's going to happen in the next couple of days. So that will be hampered. So please look at the Bureau website, listen to authorities, do not go back there unless for some urgent reason. Stay off those roads and please keep safe. Thank you.
Deputy Commissioner.
Thank you, Premier. Good morning. As we've heard this morning, we are dealing with a very unstable situation and quite a dangerous situation. If I can first brief on Grantham, we've experienced over 80 millimetres of rain water in the Grantham catchment this morning. So as a result of that, we are taking a precautionary measure to sound the evacuation siren. We've issued a watch and act alert into Grantham, and we have emergency services and ADF on the ground door knocking the residents in Grantham regarding evacuation. We are seeing water rising in that area, but I will stress this is being done as a precautionary measure. We've already had 80 mils there. So we would only need one more severe storm system over that, which would cause issues there. And that's the same right across the areas that have been mentioned today. What I can say is if you have been inundated over the last few days from the flood event, from rivers or creeks, and we get high rainfall in that area, there is a possibility that your home will be inundated again. So I can't stress, please over the next 48 hours, please do not move back into your homes if you have been inundated. We have evacuation centres set up to support you. You can get support obviously from your family and friends. But what we don't want to be doing is for emergency services at midnight tonight needing to come back in to those areas and evacuate you again. So please, over the next 48 hours, please don't move back into your homes. Clean-up activities, we're asking that please put your clean-up activities on hold during these storms. We've heard of severe winds, 97 km/h winds. We have a lot of debris as a result of the flooding, and the situation will become quite dangerous during that period. Please stay alert to the messaging coming out from the Bureau. The Premier has suggested you subscribe to the BOM website, and please, I reiterate that. But councils and the state will be putting out emergency alerts for those areas. But I can't stress enough, these storm cells are developing quickly and they're very intense in very specific areas. So we need you to monitor those situations. For the areas north of the state, again, I know that we've had significant drops in our river levels there, but the ground is so saturated, if we get intense rainfall in that area, we will see rapid rises in our creeks. We will see creeks come up and cut roads. That's why we don't want people on the road. We don't want people trapped on the road between creeks that have been rising that we've seen in the last few days. So please, I just reiterate again, stay alert to the warnings that are coming out. Please continue to check the weather over the next 48 hours. But if you have been in a flood area in the last 3-4 days, please be alert that it may re-flood again. Thank you.
We are sharing today, as we always do, the latest and best available information, and that is that right across the southeast of the state there will be dangerous thunderstorms today and tomorrow. But the nature of these things is that can change rapidly, and so we are urging people to register for the BOM updates and to keep an eye out for the emergency alerts that are issued by local government. But as you've heard, the best indicator of locations that are likely to flood today and tomorrow, if there are new thunderstorms, is those that have already flooded. If you have already flooded this week, you could flood again if a storm hits your area. And so we know the urge is to get in and clean up quickly. We know that people whose homes and businesses have inundated, they want to get it cleaned out as quickly as possible and get back in there as quickly as possible. But our message today is there will be time once these storms pass. So please stay safe and heed these warnings and register for the Bureau's warnings and monitor the situation today and tomorrow.
Commissioner Lee?
Good morning. Fire and rescue crews have conducted one swiftwater rescue in the Grantham area in the last half an hour, and we conducted 2 swiftwater rescues overnight in the Biwa-Landsborough area. If you are out moving around at the moment in these dangerous conditions, not only do you need to look down for floodwaters and flash flooding, you need to look up because with the ground so saturated, any wind squalls can bring trees down really easily. So if you're out and about and you need to take shelter somewhere, think about not only groundwater but think about trees and your safety. We conducted 3,500 assessments on properties yesterday. We're suspending some of those operations today as we pivot back to response operations. We have a network of swiftwater operators right across southeast Queensland at the moment, and if you are experiencing a life-threatening emergency, please dial 000. If you're experiencing inundation, use the SES helpline on 132 500. Thank you.
Can I just add too, so the safest place for people to be, probably over the next 24 to 48 hours, is in their homes with their family and loved ones, not out on the roads, and of course allowing our emergency personnel to get where they need to go. This is a really tough time, especially for people who have been flooded, and now we're asking you to please do not go back into your homes over this period because we don't want to put your lives at risk. So please subscribe to the BOM app, check the BOM website constantly, but like I said, you only have to look behind me and to see the impact that these potentially dangerous and life-threatening storms can have on the entire southeast area. We've been through a lot together, we'll get through this, but please listen to the BOM for regular updates during the course of today.
I've got a question for BOM.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, of course.
Can you please explain, I guess, what's causing this and also the forecast rain totals for areas of the southeast over the next couple of days?
Yeah, so I'll start with what's causing this. So there's 2 factors really, and the first one is that there's a lot of moisture in the air, so it's really humid, it's very muggy, and that's through all levels of the atmosphere, and that means that conditions are ripe for storm activity. And then on top of that, what we've seen, it's what we call an upper low, but it's essentially what's happening upstairs in the atmosphere is causing this situation to be very volatile. So we've got this unstable air, we've got a lot of moisture, and they're the 2 ingredients you need for severe storms, and that's exactly what's happening and what can continue to happen over the next 48 hours. And then in terms of exact amounts of rainfall, is that what you were after? It's very difficult to say. We like to call these sort of hit and miss storms. So in terms of widespread areas, very difficult to say. In our flood watch, we have the 20 to the 80 millimetres, and that could be spread across the next couple of days. But very important to note that if locations see themselves under a storm, if it's a severe storm, it could be upwards of 150 millimetres. And if it's sort of your more garden variety storm, that's 50 to 100. So they're sort of very ballpark figures, and it will depend on where sees the more intense rainfall. But that's probably enough for a sort of general sense of what we might see.
Premier, just quickly, it seems a lot of local authorities were caught unaware of these storms and flooding. When did the government really understand how serious this event was going to be?
This morning. We've just had our briefing at 9 o'clock,
No, I'm sort of
and
talking about the weekend's events.
we've had another subsequent briefing.
I'm just talking
Like,
about-
honestly, I'm sorry. We are getting the up-to-date information as it comes to hand, and we are acting as quickly as we possibly can.
I'm talking about the weekend's events, the big floods that we saw. Seems like a lot of people were taken a bit unaware. You know, we've seen, and that's not just the state government, I'm talking about councils, I'm talking about a lot of people who seem to be unaware of what was coming. And there's been complaints about lack of notice, you know, and
We did go through this with all due respect the other day, and as the Bureau gives us information, we are getting it out as quickly as we possibly can. We do these regular press conferences. This press conference was delayed half an hour because we were having serious discussions about picking up children safely from school and getting the most up-to-date information about the severe, where we believe that the severe impact is going to be, from that northern Moreton Bay to Fraser Coast, including Gympie, just where I was the other day. These people have been through a lot, and now they're having to probably go through it again because of these severe thunderstorms. Now, the Bureau has advised us they can be life-threatening thunderstorms. Anyone who woke up to it this morning, I haven't heard the likes of it before, and it's going to be continuous for the next 24 to 48 hours. So the safest place for people is at home, off the roads, and especially in those northern areas that I mentioned, to please gradually pick up your children. We need to be able to get our emergency personnel through as quickly as possible.
Businesses are calling out for a support package in the wake of the weather. Is there
Sorry?
one, businesses are calling out for a support
Yes.
package? Is that going to be announced soon?
The Deputy Premier is looking at that. We'll be speaking with the Prime Minister. I spoke with the Prime Minister this morning. He has said to me that the Australian Defence Force can be deployed wherever the state needs them, which is fantastic, and I thank him for that.
Last
Okay?
one. Do you
We
think that-
really have to go. We have
Do you
to.
think that call about tolls should have made a bit earlier? There's been a lot of people unhappy that the toll roads weren't free on Sunday night when we saw a lot of flooding.
All of the agencies have been dealing with a lot of things, and as soon as that information came to hand that we could do that, it was acted on straight away. As you can appreciate, this is a huge event. There is a lot going on. There's a lot of people out there. I've met with people on the ground. I know exactly what they're going through. It's a very stressful time for a lot of people, and our agencies are doing as much as they possibly can. Now, I really have to go. We have to go and brief these mayors again, and they have to go and check out on Grantham.
Gotta go.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.